Hello, everybody. It's Colonel Steve Akley. I'm here at my place, the ABV Barrel Shop. Check us out online, abvbarrelshop.com. We always have a lot of things going on. We have a classes and events page you can check out. We have what's in inventory, so you know what we've got here at the shop. I know a lot of people utilize that because a lot of them will come walking in with a list of things that they want. So I try to keep that as updated as possible. Sometimes you forget things because it is a manual process, but for the most part, what we have in the store is listed out online. I'm here today to talk about forgotten projects. You know, I'm a creative person. To do what I do, to own a media company, to come out with podcasts, movies, books, you have to be a creative person. And I think when you are that sort of creative individual, you come up with a lot of ideas. And sometimes you start working on those ideas, and then for some reason or another, maybe you just, as you get into it, you realize there's not enough there. I don't have the time. Maybe it's a bigger project than you thought. Maybe other times you get onto something else, and then this thing gets kind of put aside for a little bit, and then a little bit turns into a long time, and then a long time turns into forever that you never get to it. So it's a myriad of things that happen, and sometimes these things will just go away and never meant to be resurrected. Other times you do things and you do get back to them and you do finish them off, and that's where we're at with all these. I don't know what the fate of these are, but I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I've started working on that never got finished for one reason or another. Number one is, of course, I came out with a movie called St. Louis Whisky, and it's about what's going on in St. Louis right now. For the most part, there is a little bit of a historical information in there, but I wanted to truly do a deep dive into St. Louis's history when it comes to bourbon and when it comes to whiskey. I think there's a great story there. I felt like, it would be conducive to doing not only a podcast, but a book, and really did a bunch of work on that. I probably have on the book 20 chapters written about different things from, history of St. Louis. But I feel like, man, you got to be like the Mike Veach type to really do it justice. And I just don't have time for that. And I want to, when I do this, I want to do it right. So it's one of those things I think I'll get back to at some point. But I just don't have time right now. So we'll see what happens. Maybe that's kind of my retirement gig, is working on St. Louis whiskey and becoming kind of the Mike Veach of St. Louis. And that's a compliment to Mike. That's not ripping him off or anything. I just want to be an expert from the area that I live in. Very St. Louis proud, as you can imagine. And I think we've got a great heritage here that sometimes at some points in history rivaled what was happening in Kentucky at that time. Certainly Kentucky has far surpassed that, and Kentucky is the king. And I think at this point, always will be. I don't know that there'll ever be a time now when Kentucky isn't our bourbon capital of America. But, St. Louis had at one point or another was in the mix. Let's say that. I don't know that they were ever on top, but they were close. They were up there. But so those stories kind of remain largely untold, and at some point they will be told, and I will do them, I hope. Another thing, Royce Neely and I, we came up in terms of our companies at the same time, and I don't know, as you're dreaming about what your companies could be, sometimes you don't live in the now and appreciate how good things are. You're just dreaming of what's going to be life when it's great. And I think we've gotten to that point now where Royce has certainly one of the most respected distilleries in Kentucky. He's an up-and-comer. He wins a lot of awards and things like that. Financially, he's on very stable ground. I'm at the same place with my company. I've grown it now where I've added the barrel shop. When Royce and I first met, I was just the media guy. And it's been great. But, what happens is, when we were just getting started, I didn't have any money. He didn't have any money. And, I would stay at his distillery and we'd sit up and talk till 2 or 3 in the morning. All these what ifs and what if this and what if that. And I don't know, as you look back on it now, it's like, man, those are the good times. We don't do any of that stuff anymore. If Royce and I, would travel or anything like that, it's 2 different hotel rooms. Back in the day, to save money, we'd have to stay in the same room. So again, you drink and you talk all night. These days when I go up to Kentucky, I'm not staying at his distillery. I'm either staying at his house or at a hotel. So, things become different as you become more successful. But back in the times when we would just talk about things, we came up with all these great ideas. And I don't know, maybe they're all dead, maybe they're not. I'm not exactly sure. But, a couple of things that we came up with. We wanted to do like a weekly documentary, like a TV type of series, where it was like bourbon behind the scenes, where we utilize connections from the industry and we just go to, and this can be anything. It could be going to a distillery, seeing behind the scenes how they do things. If there's something unique, we would certainly talk about that and let them show those sort of things off. Or it might be going to historic places where they used to make whiskey, or going back into history and talking about it. There would be a little bit of everything that takes you literally behind the scenes of bourbon. One day there could be an episode where we go over to the Nose House and just hang out with them in the living room and have Fred No tell stories. Again, behind the scenes, the reason for that is not because we want to make a TV show. We can care less about that. We just want to do all this cool stuff. So, we would talk about all that. We'd come up probably 100 different ideas that we could do for that show. And we felt like bourbon is underrepresented on TV, despite the fact that it's very popular. It's had its heyday. There's really nothing. I mean, you think about, ask someone what's going on with bourbon on TV. They'll be like, well, you got that Moonshiner show. Well, it's not bourbon. And that's not even really a real show. It's scripted crap. They act like it's real. It's not. I don't. I'm not a fan of that show. But unless, of course, they call me and say we want you to be part of it, I'll be like, oh yeah, I love that show. It's great. You think you'd never sell out, and then you probably sell out in a second if someone calls you. But I don't know. So that was something that we always talk about, this kind of bourbon behind the scenes thing. Another thing we talked about was doing a TV show, almost like a la Larry David, where, you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm and it's Larry David is the star of the show. His name in the show is Larry David, and it's kind of based on his life, but also kind of not. It's also, it blends or blurs fact and fiction. And we wanted to do kind of the same thing with Royce, where we do some of the stuff that we did, but we had fictionalized versions of it. So, we were going to go play cards at Bourbon's Bistro. And I wrote a whole script. Season number 1 is done. If we ever pick this up, season 1 is done. But, we talked about, funny things that would happen at the card game and stuff like that. Things that never happened, but, if they would, like, someone tries to rob the card game or something like that, and everybody's got guns and that, and some of that's true. Maybe some of the folks had guns there, but not everybody. And I don't know. It was this kind of hybrid of real and fake, and we thought it could be really fun. And then people wouldn't actually know what's true and what's not. And we would have the luxury of just kind of saying, well, I don't know, you tell us what's true and what's not. So that was kind of a fun idea that we did. Went pretty far down the path. We were like casting it and stuff like that. Thinking that we would just film it ourselves, get Bo to film it, and we had people playing different characters. Of course, I was going to get to be in there, just being myself, coming in and hanging out and adding to the fun, and that is Neely Family Distillery. And I don't know, it could happen, it could not. We'll see. Another thing we talked about doing, because Neely family history is so over the top, the Neely family themselves kind of over the top. We thought, it'd be almost conducive to a cartoon. So, and that all came out one day. Royce was telling me this great story about his uncle, who had been in jail for a little bit. And when he gets out, they had changed the speed limit from 55 on the U.S. highways to 70. And he didn't know this. He's in jail, so he doesn't know this. He missed out on this. And they pick him up at jail, and they get on the highway, and Roy Neely, brother of Uncle Bones, gets it up to 70, and Bones, who's, I guess, used to driving 55, hadn't even been in a car in several years, was like, whoa, what are you doing? Why are you going so fast? It was like, that's the speed limit. And he had no idea. And it's just funny to think about something like that. We thought, man, and Royce's Uncle Bones would be conducive to a cartoon. So we thought, cartoon Neely would be something that would be fun. And we were going to be on Adult Swim. We just knew we could get this thing on Adult Swim. But yeah, we never did much with that one other than talk about a few concepts and stuff, because we're not cartoonists, so it involved getting other people involved. But we were going to, of course, do all the voiceovers and stuff like that, which would have been fun. We were working on that a little bit. Another couple things. I want to write some historical books, some biographies, because I do enjoy that. I think there's not a whole lot of that goes on. I feel like bourbon fans would want that. So, I mean, the two main people that I came up with that I wanted to write about were George T. Stagg, number one. George T. Stagg is one of my favorite people from the world of bourbon, only because he was largely a St. Louis guy. So, of course, he was born in Kentucky, but his adult life was spent in St. Louis. Even when he owned the distillery that is now Buffalo Trace, his family stayed in St. Louis. And, he would commute back and forth from St. Louis to Kentucky. So it meant a lot to me to think that I could help tell the story, again, incorporating St. Louis into something by telling the story of George T. Stagg. So I thought that would be pretty awesome. Colonel E.H. Taylor was another one I wanted to get into. Certainly there's been stuff written about him because he's affiliated with a big-time brand from Buffalo Trace. Stagg is too, of course. But Colonel Taylor is a little bit more readily available. We also have the castle that he built, so he gets a lot of news and press because of that. So that I thought, but I thought there's more to it than the audience knows. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, and I do have a couple more that are a little bit more active. And there's one project I've got that I've been working on now for 6-7 years, and I think eventually it'll be done. But I don't want to talk about that one because it's a good idea and someone will steal it. So all of these I'm just throwing out into the ether, and I guess if they get stolen, they get stolen. I don't want them to be stolen. I want to work on them myself, but certainly my idea. But when you throw things out there, because I haven't finished them, maybe someone could jump in and finish these. Maybe we'll see. The last thing I wanted to do was a book I've got. How did distillers die? I just thought that would be interesting, right? To go in. And literally every famous person from the world of bourbon that has died, to tell the story of how they died. What happened to them? Was it an accident? Was it an illness? How did they die? I think it's just interesting. I don't know. Maybe it's not. For me, it was interesting, but it also would involve a lot of work. So I'm sure you could get together a lot of it, but it certainly would involve a lot of work. So maybe I'll get to that one. Again, if I do, that would be more of a retirement type of book. But for right now, I don't have the time to do that. So there you go. There are a couple of the things that I've started and never finished, but always hope that one day I will get to them because I think they're cool stuff. So there you go. That's it for now. We'll see you soon at the ABV Barrel Shop.